Welcome back to our podcast, The History of Waxahachie Indian Baseball, through the eyes of three coaches who have represented 42 of the last 50 seasons here in Waxahachie and at Paul Richards Park with this Indian baseball team. With that type of history, I want to get some specific memories from you guys. So we'll start with Coach Midkiff this time. One of your favorite Waxahachie High School coaching memories?
When I came here that season of '82, DeSoto had been kind of riding roughshod over everybody, and they were very good. And the only time that I've ever done this, we funneled the entire season toward that one game here at DeSoto. It was about the 15th game on the schedule, and boy, our kids were ready to play, and we were playing the national anthem, and everybody was pretty uptight, and Randall Ferguson nudged me and went like that, and I looked over at Mike Bird, had a big old tear running down his eye, and I thought, man, we're fixing to see a whale of a ball game here tonight. And we did, and fortunately we beat them.
I love that game. I remember it, and of course I'm sure I'll remember most of these that you guys are talking about, and the fact that we all know, and for those that maybe you're getting your first introduction to Waxahachie Indian baseball, you can judge a game not by only that intensity, how many people are on the grassy knoll, down the levee, on the right field side, and that was one of those games where we just had people about everywhere we could put them. Really good. What about you, Coach Wood?
Well, I got to go to 08. My first year, we played for a state championship that year. Got beat by the Yankees in the final there, but
disguised as Corpus Christi, Cal Allen.
Corpus Christi, Cal Allen. I think they have two big leaguers playing in the bigs right now. Yeah. But anyway, that was a special time for sure. We got on a pretty good run. We had some good players for sure, and we got on a good run. And you know, it's a great memory for me because it was my first year here. You know, and I've told people those kids didn't have to buy into that. You know, we probably bunted a little more than some people wanted us to bunt. You know, we did some things where you had to be a team guy for sure, and those guys bought into that, and there was never a problem with that at all. And then with the talent we had, we made it down there and won the semis, beat Burble in the semis. But that's a pretty solid memory there.
That run, the one that I really recall so vividly, and it was anytime you get a chance to go to the state tournament, there, you can pick out a lot of great things. The third and deciding game at Hewitt Midway, though that was getting over the big hump.
It was.
Because just like Coach Midkiff talked about, DeSoto used to run roughshod back in that day. Midway had been the team that had run a roughshod over people.
They were. They'd beat me more than once at different places. But what sticks out at me is Colton Kane, who later got $1.15 million from the Pirates, so it tells you how good he was.
You didn't do much coaching then.
No, I was a pretty good coach at that time. And I can tell another story about the scout. You talked about the guy from Euless Trinity. He was later a scout, but I got another story on him. But anyway, so Colton gets beat, you know, in game 2. Yeah. Game 1, we throw on number 2, Marshall, and we win that one. And you got to feel pretty good about going to Midway with that guy on the mound, and we get beat. Not his fault at all. I mean, we throw a couple away. But so then we got to kind of dig down a little bit, and we threw Brendan Collins game 3 and won it without Colton on the mound. So that was pretty special there.
His bat play still played pretty big.
Yeah, big time, big time.
I don't know what year it was, but one of the best ball games that I've ever seen at Richards Park. I was done through. Tracy was here, and they were playing Mesquite Poteet, I believe, and they had won like 65, 75 district games in a row, and we beat them. He beat them. We beat them. Yeah, I'm gonna take the credit.
Well, that's all right.
Beat them out there in one of the greatest baseball games I've ever seen.
It was electric.
That was a high intensity game.
It was electric.
That, Coach, because we were in the booth broadcasting that one. But as a coach, because we could go player with you too, but as a coach, your favorite memory as a Waxahachie Indian baseball coach?
I think it would have to be the first year also. The program had been down 2 years before I got here. And when you say the program's down, that might mean just a little bit above 500. But I had had the opportunity to coach Legion ball the 3 summers prior to getting the position. In first district game, I found myself in bed because of an appendicitis attack. Mr. Wyman Harriman, who worked for a telephone company at that time, hooked up, dug out to my bedroom, to my bed, the opportunity to converse on that first district ball game.
There's a story.
David Jacobs, the right-hander and outstanding team that we had in 1969, we were able to beat the Terrell Tiger team that had been a state finalist the year before. So I got to see through the words of players and assistant coaches that game, my first district game, laying on the bed after an appendicitis attack.
And to go back to the theme of how this community takes ownership, the first time I heard that story wasn't from a player or a coach, it was from the butcher that worked at my dad's grocery store, who was a big Indian baseball fan. And as a kid, I can remember him telling me that story. I don't want to make it sound like I'm a lot younger than you are, Coach, but I do remember hearing that story and thinking, I've never heard of a guy coaching over a telephone line before, but in Waxahachie it happened because you were the guy doing it.
And Coach Wood could say to me exactly what I said to him. What were you doing? I did a coach for you, so it all worked.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at favorite moments, also when you coach as long as you guys have, there's bound to be some moments that you'd like to have back. Maybe a moment that you think, I would have done something a little different, or a moment that just still kind of haunts you a little bit. What would that be for you, Coach Turner?
I think it's got to be when we were one game from going to the state tournament, playing South Grand Prairie. I did not know that Coach Midkiff did so much scouting for an opponent that we played against in such a crucial series, but we were defeated on that night in a one-run ball game, and I go back and think about, that close to the state tournament, things that maybe we could have done a little bit different. Wouldn't take the moment back, but sometimes you relive moments and say, hey, what if?
That's right, I think we all do, and that's why Coach Midkiff, since he referenced you, what about you? A moment that kind of sticks out?
I think it's all about what ifs. You get in a big ball game and you decide that, we're going to try to steal second. Guy gets thrown out. The pitcher hits the hitter with the next pitch, and you think, man, what are you thinking about? Just pay attention or something.
Those are the ones that keep coaches awake at night, though, right after a situation.
We'll do that. You'll have to take you a little sedative to doze off.
We won't ask what that is, but I have an idea.
That third base coaching box sometimes can get pretty lonely when you're down there, especially after, and we've all had that opportunity.
Yeah. What about you, Coach Tracy Wood?
Well, if you was to bring fans or parents in here at this time, this segment would probably be longer.
What's so funny? I was just thinking the same thing. I thought, if I want to get personal, I can recall different things, but I'm not going to do that.
I think Coach is right. There's really and truly, to be honest with you, there's too many of those.
Yeah.
There's just too many of those to come back because you just, there's a whole lot of what ifs in that third base box. You're right. You're sitting down there. I know. Let's run on this guy right here, and then it's a whole lot of, it's a whole lot of what ifs.
You're
it really
making
is.
a judgment on the go in that particular moment, and hindsight's always 20.
You go with your gut, you go with your experience and the players you got on the field at that time.
Being at third base, go send a guy to the plate, and you're waving him on. And once he gets just a little bit by you, you throw your arms up like this, so people think you're just trying to hold him up.
Plus, I've also had the privilege, since you're talking about being at third base, I've had the privilege of seeing all of your abilities to dodge foul balls too. And I want to say you all have kind of a different tactic that you take, but I don't think I've ever seen either one of you, any of the three to hit.
Well, I got hit once,
But
that's for sure.
I've seen it really close.
Yeah.
Coach Wood got hit in the playoff game.
Yeah. Never seen the ball.
Exactly right.
Never seen the ball.
Exactly right.
Act like it didn't hurt. It hurt bad. had a ball mark on my thigh right there. I actually got hit by Colton one time at the ballpark. He sliced one over there. I just went and sat in the grapevine dugout. I said, I don't want to see him cry.
I have seen all of you after a foul ball got pretty close, back up a little bit toward that third base dugout.
Yeah, there's not much room over there.
Yeah. Don't leave you a lot of room on the third base side.
I'd like to throw out Coach Bill Bargers when I was playing. We'd gone through maybe a hitting slump, so he took to the mound to throw batting practice. And Coach Borders, it was a time then that you could put a big chaw in your mouth.
Even in the high school.
And this was in the a workout at Richards Park. And Dale Finchie, who went on to play at the college level, outstanding catcher, he said, I want you to take the ball up the middle. Well, the first one, he hit it straight up the middle, went over the fence, caught him just below the neck, high chest. He swallowed that chaw of tobacco. He got up, able to say, hey, I believe you're out of that slump right now. so but you do get hit. It's not always during game time.
I want to talk about your most memorable team, just as a squad, not individual players so much as a team. And maybe it's not necessarily a team that made a longest run or a state run, although it may be, but a team that really, for whatever reason, is etched into your memory. Coach Wood?
Well, OA's up there for sure. I mean, you go play for a state championship, not have those guys in there, for sure. But, I think the 2011 team, it was that very game we're talking about Poteet. We got into the math. The math turned out to be that we had to win 8 games in a row just to get in. And long story short, we beat Poteet it was actually a 55-game winning streak, because I remember the Dallas Morning News called me the next day. And he says, Coach, I'd like to talk to you about that streak. I said, you talking about streak number 1? Is that what you're talking about? He got a laugh out of that. He goes, that's pretty good. But anyway, that was the streak. We had to win that game. And I remember, me and Coach Miller talking about our pitching. We obviously had a 1 and a 2. And I said, whatever we did, we were going to play a play-in game the next day. And he said, I think we throw a 1 or 2. And I said, I think we throw a 1, and whatever we did. And we ended up winning that. But we had to win 8 games in a row, and then we didn't lose another game till round 4 after those 8 games. So we went however many. And that team just figured it out. They just, it wasn't very good the year before. In 2010, we didn't get in the playoffs, which is the only time that I remember not getting in there. And they figured it out and grew up a whole lot. And that was a pretty solid baseball team. When you win that many games in a row with the pressure on you, that was a tough deal, and that was a good group of kids.
What about you, Coach Turner?
I think the '69 team is a special team because it revitalized, brought back the tradition, and that opening district win kind of set a tone. But I would also have to go to 1973 when we played Mount Pleasant. We'd get on to Mount Pleasant, played the first game, got shut out, maybe a 2-hitter by Ashley Walker, but later signed with University of Texas. We came back here for a doubleheader, and when you talk about people all over the place, an 11-9 win in that first game. Not too pretty, but got to the second one and won 5-4. Maybe a highlight of really what changed some things.
Coach Bill Mickey?
Oh, without a doubt, for me, the one that hits home first is the '88 ball club. Me personally, I'd never won a playoff game up to that point. And we played Liberty Ilu down here, and they thrashed us. And we got to go up there on Friday and sweep a doubleheader if we're gonna make it. And we did. Now, and that game that we won up there was my first playoff victory, but thanks to John Rogers, I had to see it from the bus. There was a little issue that took place there.
A little disagreement between you and one of the umpires.
Right. That was neat. I'd never been to Austin. I'd never been to the state tournament. When the first state tournament game that I ever saw, we were playing it.
Wow.
And it was a great bunch of guys. Nearly all of them are still in the community, National Honor Society kind of guys. And well, if I could just drive the bus and get them there, we were in good shape.
That is amazing how many players off of that 88 team still, like you said, live and work right here.
Oh, yeah.
In Waxahachie too.
Yeah.
They're having broadcast the games since that spring of '81. There are certain teams that stick out to you, and of course, success makes a big part of it. But most of them have been successful. I think it is that. To me, what's always been interesting is to see how those teams gel. You guys have all talked about that. Getting to the playoffs and that one seminal moment where all of a sudden something happens and it clicks, and all of a sudden they just get on that road. And what is always interesting to me is, you know who your superstar players are. It's that kid that maybe struggled during the season, comes alive during the playoffs.
Absolutely.
And it seems like if you make a long run, and all of you have, that you have those one or two guys that all of a sudden they just start playing way above what you had seen them do before, and a little luck along the way doesn't hurt anything at all.
The ball bouncing your way.
Yeah.
Means a lot.
Absolutely.
Well, we are talking Waxahachie Indian baseball. We've got one more segment for you on our podcast, so if you'll stay with us, we'll be back after this.